Perseus by Alice Lowe. King Croesus of Argos had a beautiful daughter named Danae, but he was not satisfied with her, for he wanted a son. He visited the oracle at Delphi to find out if he would ever have a male child, and to his dismay he was told, "You shall never have a son. Furthermore, your daughter shall give birth to a son who shall take your life." "I must make certain that Danae never has any children," said the king to himself, and he shut his daughter away from the world in a bronze house underground so that no man would ever fall in love with her and father her child. Nobody could enter the house, for only a tiny section of the roof was open to the surface of the earth to let in light and air. Poor Danae. She was all alone, week after week, with just a patch of sky to look at. Then one day, a strange thing occurred. Suddenly, a shower of gold rained down into her house, and that shower changed into Zeus, who declared his love for her. Within the year, Danae bore Zeus's son, whom she named Perseus. Danae tried to hide Perseus from her father. At last, though, King Acrisius discovered him and said to Danae, "One day this son of yours will kill me. I cannot kill him, for that would anger his father Zeus, but I will have the two of you sealed in a chest and tossed into the sea if you do not survive. If you do not survive, that will be Poseidon's fault." "Please, father, spare us," cried Danae. "I will keep Perseus by my side always and make certain that he will never harm you." But Acrisius said, "The oracle at Delphi never lies, and I must protect myself." He ordered carpenters to make a large wooden chest. When it was finished, he put Danae and Perseus in it and had it thrown into the sea. For a day and a night, Danae cowered in the chest, holding Perseus in her arms as the waves tossed them to and fro. Then suddenly, Danae felt a bump, and the chest stopped moving. "We're on land," she said to Perseus. "But how can we ever get out of this sealed chest?" Perseus was too young to understand her, and he cried and cried because he was hungry. Danae tried to comfort him, but his wails continued, which was a good thing. A fisherman passing by heard the cries and broke open the chest. His name was Dictys, and he took Danae and Perseus to his home, where he and his wife cared for them gladly, for they themselves were childless. Perseus grew into a strong young man and became a fisherman on that small island. He and his mother were content until Dictys' brother Polydectes, who ruled the island, fell in love with Danae and tried to force her to marry him. Perseus defended his mother so bravely that Polydectes decided he had to get rid of him. Pretending he was going to marry another princess, Polydectes asked each guest to bring a wedding gift. Perseus said to Polydectes, "Alas, I'm too poor to bring a gift for a ruler and his bride." And Polydectes said, "Then I shall tell you of a gift you can win from me, but I do not know if you are brave enough to get it." "Tell me what it is, and I promise I shall get it for you," said Perseus. "I do not lack for bravery." "Very well," said Polydectes. "I want you to bring me the head of Medusa, the horrible Gorgon." Perseus was trapped by his bold promise, even though he knew that this feat was impossible for one man alone. Medusa was one of the three Gorgons, huge, hideous winged creatures. Their hair was made of snakes, and their faces were so ugly that anyone who looked at them immediately turned to stone. Fortunately for Perseus, a goddess and a god overheard that conversation, and not long afterward they appeared to him and offered him their help. First, Athena flew down from Mount Olympus, holding her dazzling shield of brass. She gave it to the astonished Perseus, saying, "You must use this as a mirror when you slay Medusa. In this way you will not look at her directly, but only her reflection, and so you will not be turned to stone." Perseus thanked the wise goddess and then said, "But I do not know where Medusa lives. How shall I find her?" At that moment, Perseus saw a bright light overhead. Hermes, the messenger of the gods, flew down and landed at his side. "I shall be your guide," he said, "and also help you overcome the terrible Medusa. Here's a sword that can never be broken, not even by the hard scales of Medusa's neck." "This is indeed a wonderful gift," said Perseus. "Now I must be on my way to slay Medusa and bring back her head." "Not yet," said Hermes. "There are three other things you must have first: winged sandals, a magic wallet, and a cap to make you invisible. These are guarded by the nymphs of the north, and only the gray women who live in dreary gray land know where to find them. Follow me, and we will begin the long journey. Hermes guided Perseus to the gray land where it was always gray twilight. And at last they found the shriveled old gray woman who had swan-like bodies and human heads, but only one eye among the three of them. Perseus and Hermes hid behind a rock and watched the gray woman pass the eye around. Each had to turn to put it in the middle of her forehead. The next time the eye is passed around, said Hermes to Perseus, you must grab it and not give it back until they tell you where to find the nymphs of the north. Perseus waited for the right moment. Then he darted out and snatched the eye. The gray women ran around blindly shouting, "Where's our eye? Who took it?" "I took your eye," Perseus said, "and I will not give it back until you tell me how to find the nymphs of the north." Of course, the gray women were anxious to have their eye, and so they immediately gave Perseus detailed directions. He gave them back their eye and went on his way with Hermes. Once more they traveled far and long, this time over the ocean to the north. The nymphs of the north received them warmly and gave Perseus the three magic gifts. Perseus put on the cap of invisibility and the magic sandals, and holding the magic wallet, flew after Hermes to the island of the Gorgons. Beneath him he could see the stones in the shapes of animals and men, and he shuddered, for he knew that they had once been alive, before they had looked at the fearful Gorgons. But he was confident, now that he was armed with Hermes' swords, Athena's shield, and the three magic gifts. Perseus hovered over the Gorgons. Fortunately, he remembered to look into the mirror-like shield at their reflections. The three hideous, winged, snake-haired Gorgons were asleep. But which one is Medusa? He thought. She is the only one I can kill, for the other two are immortal. Again, Athena came to his aid, saying, "The one in the middle is Medusa. Strike now, while she's asleep." Perseus flew within inches of Medusa, his sword held ready. Then, looking into the shield, he struck off Medusa's head with one well-aimed blow. He stuffed the head into his magic wallet, which grew large enough to hold the head with all its snakes still hissing and wriggling. The other two Gorgons woke up when they heard the headless body of Medusa thrashing about. They flew into the air in pursuit of Perseus, but they could not see him, for he had on a cap of invisibility, and he flew away in his winged sandals farther and faster than the wind. Now Perseus headed for home alone, for Hermes, his mission accomplished, had left. On his way, Perseus slew a dangerous sea monster that was about to devour a lovely princess named Andromeda, and then Perseus took Andromeda home with him, for she had agreed to be his bride. As soon as they reached home, Perseus strode into Polydectes' palace and said to the ruler, "I have brought you the head of Medusa." But Polydectes refused to believe Perseus. "If you had even gone near Medusa, you would not be here to tell the tale. What a liar you are!" Perseus could not stand to be taunted and mistrusted, and now he realized that this cruel ruler had sent him on the chase just to get rid of him. He pulled Medusa's head to show it to Polydectes, who turned to stone the moment he saw it. Kind Dectius became ruler of the island, and Perseus sailed to Argos with his mother Danae and his wife Andromeda. Danae wanted to see her father, King Acrisius, again to be reconciled with him, but Acrisius was attending games that were being held in another city. Since Perseus wanted to take part in the games, he journeyed to that city, and there he took his turn at throwing the discus. As the discus left his hand, a sudden wind blew it into the grandstand. It hit King Acrisius, who was a spectator, and killed him. And thus was fulfilled the prophecy of the oracle at the Delphi, which had predicted that the king would be killed by his grandson.